Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to today's webinar about travel English for Central America. My name is Charles. I get the privilege of being your host for today. I hope you are all doing well. You have had a good weekend and a good start to your week. For those of you who are joining with me live, like I said, my name is Charles. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm one of the Tutlo tutors here on the platform, and of course, I am part of our webinar team, which is why you see me here today. And I would like to kindly ask if you can hear me and you can see me. So for those of you who are here with us at the moment, please let me know in the chat if you can hear me and everything is okay with our connection today. So if there is a problem as well, please let me know so I can do my best to assist you. But if everything is all right, you can say hi, hello, or even maybe let me know what is your travel destination? Since today we are talking about travel English. So far, I see that people are typing in the chat. Hello, Emma. Hello, Greg. Hello, Noemi. Hello, Nikolai. Hello, Katarzyna. Hello, Malgorzata and Rima, and so many more people. Awesome to see you all. I won't be able to go over everyone's names, but if everything is okay, as it seems it is, just please let me know by saying something in the chat. And the same stands for the rest of our webinar today. If there are any problems, please do let me know. And of course, I will do my best to help you from my side of things. But so far, it seems that our connection is great. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about what to expect from today's lesson. Of course, since today we are talking about travel English, we will talk a bit about traveling the world. So since today we're focusing more on the travel side, we want to learn some things as well. So we'll talk about traveling to the world and specifically what is unique about Central America, what Central America is. We'll go over some history about it, some unique things that happened there before. We'll talk about some culture, talk about some traditions that are done in the countries of Central America. And of course, we'll discuss some vocabulary and some terms to know. This is one of the best ways to learn English, not just learning words, but learning topics that you love so much. If you're a travel buddy like me and you love traveling, you love visiting new countries and new places, well, maybe Central America is already on your bucket list. And if that's the case, well, today would be perfect for you. And if you haven't heard much about Central America, that's completely okay as well. We're going to learn where it is and how can I know if it is a Central American country as well. Now, before we get into anything, just a couple quick reminders. The first thing I would like to remind everyone of is how long we will be here. If this is your first time joining us for a webinar, our webinars are always around 30 minutes long. So that's about a half hour today. So we started today at around 7 p.m., which means we will finish as close to 7:30 to be respectful. Oh, sorry, 8 o'clock to be respectful of your time. And during the duration of our webinar, I encourage you to use our chat. It will be open for you today. You can make comments about what we're learning, participate in some activities, and even ask questions towards the end of today's webinar. And Lucas, it's your first time here in our webinars. It's great to have you. I feel like you've joined at a perfect topic. So let's get into it. Let's talk about traveling around the world, but specifically, let's travel today to Central America. And highlighted on your screen is a simple example of Central America as a region. It is broken up into a few countries, all colored in on your screen, from Belize to Guatemala to El Salvador to Honduras to Nicaragua to Costa Rica and to Panama. So Central America is bordered by Mexico to the north and Colombia to the south. So if you ever look at a map and you see we have a North America and a South America as a continent, but there is a little almost line connecting north to south, and that region is Central America. Now, geographically, Central America still is not a continent, all right? It's still not classified as its own continent, but it's classified as a region. It's the same thing. In Europe, you have Eastern Europe and Western Europe. In Asia, where I live in the Philippines, it's Southeast Asia. Same thing, you can have South Africa, Central America, the Northwest in North America. These are just simply regions. So understand that small difference in English. Whenever we talk about a region, we're talking about a specific place within something bigger, like a continent or a country. So go ahead, let us know in the chat. What do you think? Is Central America something that you would like to visit, or are any of these countries a place that you maybe have thought about traveling to before, or maybe you've been to before already? Let us know, because Central America is such an interesting place to live because it's very unique. The culture is unique because there are a few different things to know. So let's talk about it over the next few minutes. So, but quickly, of course, as I talked about with the regions, know the facts, know the difference with the regions of the Americas, as they call it. So we have North America in blue, which is as a region classified under, for example, things like Mexico, United States, and Canada. You have Central America, which are the 6 countries we just covered. You have the Caribbean, which involves places like Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and you have South America, which has the big countries like Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, and a lot more. But again, remember, we're not talking about continents, talking about regions. And that's a great way to be able to tell the difference between certain places. Because Caribbean culture, while it can have some similarities to South American or Central American culture, they have unique things in their culture. Same thing with North America and South America, or Central America and North America. There can be some similarities with a lot of these places, but there are some unique things to know when it comes down to it. Like, for example, when we talk about Central America, the main language spoken is Spanish, because Spanish is the main language of 6 of the 7 countries in Central America. So Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala primarily speak Spanish. It's their #1 language. But an interesting to note is that Belize speaks English because the monarch of England is the English monarch. So whenever we think about who the main head is of Belize, we're not thinking about president or a prime minister or a king of Belize. No, the monarch of England is still the monarch of Belize. And the monarch, it's just a fancy term for king, queen, or royalty that rules in a specific area. So the same thing happens with countries like Australia, Canada. They are still technically British Commonwealths, or countries that have the monarch of England as the head of their government. The same thing happens here with Belize. But not a lot of people know that. People think that Belize would be a lot more similar to the countries around it, which culturally is, but they primarily do speak English and they do speak Spanish, but the #1 language is English because they are under English authority. A next thing to know is that Christopher Columbus first landed in the Americas in Honduras. So a lot of the times we think of Christopher Columbus, the explorer in 1492, that he sailed the ocean blue and landed in modern day United States. Not really. More than likely, when he landed in Central America in what is probably considered modern day Honduras. So if you ever think about it, when Christopher Columbus traveled from Portugal across the ocean, we sometimes think he landed in the United States because everyone sort of moved there and it became a big thing in history. No, he probably landed in Central America due to his charts in what he went ahead and would now be called Honduras. Another thing that's quite interesting is that Lake Nicaragua is home to native sweetwater sharks. So if you take a look at Nicaragua on the map, there is a big lake in the middle of it, and it is home to sweetwater sharks, which are a unique species of sharks, not as popular, and some of them can be found in Lake Nicaragua. And the last fun fact to know about Central America is that chocolate was the first currency of ancient Mayans. So the Mayans were the ancient culture that lived in this region hundreds and hundreds, or even at this point, thousands and thousands of years ago. And they were going ahead and being referred to as Mayan people. And their first form of currency was chocolate. Not the chocolate that we have today, because that would be a lot different. But we're not going to say that Mayans were trading Hershey's or M&Ms, but chocolate in its raw form of cocoa was the first currency used. Not paper, not gold, but cocoa was the first currency used back in the day in Central America. And that's just a little bit of a background of what Central America looks like historically and culturally, and some fun facts about it. So, can you tell me, is Central America something on your travel bucket list? Is this something that you would like to visit in the future? For example, someone does want to visit Costa Rica and Panama, which are some amazing countries to visit for sure. Yeah, it is definitely a place that you could visit. It has a very tropical paradise vibe. It's very similar to the Caribbean in that way, where you can go ahead and look at it and understand, wow, that this would be a nice place to visit and travel to. Because again, a lot of people like visiting the warmer countries and the warmer climates and things like that. So maybe since now we've talked about it, maybe add it to your bucket list, as I promise you won't regret it, as it is a very interesting place to visit. Now, let's go ahead, let's hop into some vocabulary terms. As I go over our terms for today, I encourage you just to take some notes and write some things down. That way, you'll be able to practice them even with your tutor in the future, or even on your own, if you're one of those people who likes to study on their own as well. Because practice does lead to progress. And it actually is a scientific method to write things down as a way to increase your memory. So I strongly encourage you to do so. Let's get into it. Let's talk about some terms, starting with some geography. Simple, but we're going to talk about what is located next to Central America, and that is the Caribbean Sea, which is the sea to the east of Central America. Now, remember earlier, we talked about the Caribbean as being a region as well. It is technically still a place, yes, but the Caribbean Sea is a little sea that is around countries like Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and it borders to the east of Central America. And to the west, you're going to go ahead and have the Pacific Ocean. The reason I wanted to go over this term is just to understand the difference with sea and ocean. Whenever we have the ocean, it's classified into the biggest oceans around the world. Like, for example, you have the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. So these are called oceans. But in English, we refer to the smaller bodies of water as seas, like the Caribbean Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, the Baltic Sea, the Caspian Sea, the Philippine Sea. These are still bodies of water, but we don't say oceans, we say seas. And the one sea located to the east of Central America is the Caribbean Sea. And remember earlier, I mentioned the term of the Mayans, which was an ancient culture that used to live in this area. But the native people of Central America are now referred to as the Amerindians. Now, it's a bit of a tongue twister, might be a bit difficult to pronounce, but just break it down a bit. It is a combination of two words, American and Indian, and we call them Amerindians, the native people of Central America. Or a little bit of a more simple way to describe it as the indigenous people of Central America, or the native people of a country. Whenever we refer to history and cultures intertwining and countries changing over time, there used to be people who were a little bit more exclusive before traveling was made more accessible and people conquered lands and countries were formed. But if people are native to a place, they are indigenous to a place. So the Amerindians you can consider as the native population of Central America. And there are also a lot of terms that are very similar in many different languages, or even in the same language. Like, for example, we refer to football as the local word for soccer or football in Central America. It's spelled Futbol. Now, football, yes, is the same sport, but it's just spelled a bit differently. It's a fun fact to know. And it is a huge sport in Central America, as it is in South America. Not the biggest in North America, but it is spelled a bit differently. Now, soccer and football are both English terms. One's American, which is soccer, and one is British, which is football. But if you go to Central America or even a lot of Spanish-speaking countries, you will hear the term football used a lot. And of course, a unique thing about their culture is also their special food. And one of their special foods is referred to as a tamales. And a tamales is a special dish made in Central America and Mexico, which is a dough cooked with meat inside of it, pictured on the left side of your screen, which in my opinion is some of the best food I've ever eaten. I love tamales. I think they are great. They taste fantastic. And I'm sure your culture also has the unique dishes. But if you do travel to Central America, you will have the opportunity to try some authentic tamales, or if you know someone who can make you some, or even if you dare to try and make a tamales on your own, I promise you, you won't regret it. Tamales is an amazing food to eat. Now, we talked about cultural sport and traditional sport. We talked about traditional food, but also a traditional celebration is called Semana Santa, which is the week before Easter, and it takes place where people take vacations, have parades, and do certain things dedicated to their religion, or just to take some time off if they're not too into it and spend time with family or travel. But it's the week before, 7 days before Easter, and the rest of the week is considered Semana Santa, and it is definitely one thing unique to this side of the world, as it wouldn't be something that I've heard of in my country and in a lot of others. But if you're part of Central America, you're probably familiar with Semana Santa. And when we travel, of course, there are certain things that certain countries offer or certain regions offer, right? You can travel to Italy and Switzerland and you'll get a lot of mountains. You can travel also to more continental locations or desert locations. But if you travel to the Central America region, you're probably going to run into ecotourism, which is people just traveling somewhere to visit certain natural wonders. And the natural wonders that are offered in Central America are a lot of rainforests, a lot of natural environments, a lot of places for people to go hiking, a lot of beaches as well, but they are very well known as having some of the most beautiful natural landscapes that are offered for travelers. So I encourage you, if you even have some time to watch some YouTube videos about it, you will be amazed at how beautiful it is. And we want to make sure it stays beautiful because there is a lot of deforestation that can happen, which is just the clearing of forests where people are making room for cities and homes, cutting down trees to provide certain things, which at a proper rate is all right. But deforestation is the heavy takeaway of natural environments and the forest. So it's not just taking away for things that are essential, it is removing natural environment. So kind of the excessive use of it is referred to as deforestation. So I hope those were some fun terms, and I genuinely encourage you to have them in your notebooks and practice them. And we'll practice them together in a minute. But before we do, I want to read one amazing quote, in my opinion, by a man named Wallace Stevens. He said, "The most beautiful in the world is, of course, the world itself. Traveling is one of the most amazing things you can experience, as you will definitely experience things that you haven't experienced before. And when you're looking for the most beautiful things in the world, you'll always find different regions offer different things. And I hope we touched on what Central America can offer you as a tourist. But let's practice the English side of things for the next few minutes. On your screen, you see we have two incomplete sentences. I just want you to tell me from the first incomplete sentence, which of the two terms is the proper term to complete sentence one. The first one says blank gets rid of animals' natural habitats. Do we say A, deforestation, or B, ecotourism? Please go ahead. Let me know in the chat. This is a great way to practice what we've learned. Is deforestation the correct answer? Or is ecotourism the correct answer? I'll give everyone, let's say maybe 5-10 more seconds to give an answer if you'd like to participate in the exercise. And then I'll give the correct answer and we'll move on to the next one. The correct answer is deforestation, because deforestation gets rid of animals' natural habitats. Let's try one more. Blank has a majority of English speakers. Do we say Belize or Honduras? Remember, there is a country in Central America that has the English monarch as the head of their government, and it is a primarily English-speaking country where everyone learns English as their first language. Is it Belize or Honduras? If you went with A again, that is the correct answer. Why? Because remember, like I said earlier, Belize is a country that has the English monarch as the head of their government. So it is one thing to note that when I think about traveling to Central America, if I want to guarantee I can use my English skills, go ahead and add Belize to your bucket list. And it is definitely such a beautiful country. So before we go ahead and transition to the last few parts of our webinar, let me just give you a few reminders. Remember, at the end of the day, what Central America looks like today. It's divided into a few countries. It's in between North and South America, bordering Mexico and Colombia, and it's involved with 7 different countries, and each of those countries involve certain things that can be similar to one another, which brings about the culture in Central America. From celebrating a week-long holiday before Easter to going ahead and having tamales and different kinds of foods that they can offer. And of course, remember the terms we can use in conversation that we've learned today. I encourage you to always practice what we learn, as it is definitely very beneficial to apply the learnings that we have, because it definitely does go a long way. Not just have head knowledge, but to have practical use of the things that we learn. Now, before we move into anything else and wrap up, we want to make sure to answer any of your questions. So if anyone here has a question, please don't hesitate to ask it. And of course, I will do my best to answer your questions in the chat. So there's no wrong question. If you'd like to ask something about today's webinar, or you have a question in general that you would like to ask, please go ahead and ask it in the chat. And of course, I will do my best to answer any of your questions. For those of you who don't have any questions, that's okay as well. I have a question for you. There is a poll on your screen, and I would appreciate the feedback of all of you here through 2 polls. The first question asks, if you found today's webinar useful, did you enjoy it? Did you learn something? Was it beneficial? Because at the end of the day, that is our goal here, to provide you with things along those lines to make your learning experience fun here at Tutlo. And would you like to join us again for another webinar in the future? If so, that's amazing. We do our webinars quite often. You can check out our list of webinar availabilities here at Tutlo Club. And who knows, maybe we'll see each other there, or you'll be able to see the rest of our webinar team. But along with that, please let us know as well, are these topics something that you enjoy? You can type it in the chat. Like today we did travel English. We'll do things like grammar, everyday English, business English, and so much more. So I hope this was beneficial for you all. And there is a question. Yes, Naomi, Central America is on my bucket list, specifically Honduras. I really want to travel there. And I don't see any other questions, as that does bring us to the end of our webinar. But before we finish, like I said, I hope you can apply what you've learned today. Take some time to practice with your teacher, because it does definitely improve your skills, because we want to be able to make sure we provide you with excellence here at Tutlo Club. Thank you all for participating in the poll that I had up. It just helps us improve everything we do here for you all. Until next time, everyone, I wish you a fantastic rest of your evening. Stay safe as always, and I hope to see you again. Maybe we get to see each other in a webinar in the future again, or even a lesson on the platform. Until then, stay safe as always, and goodbye for now.